Survivor's ready. Go!
Travis spoken.
Boston Rob and Amber are gonna do it.
This is a business trip, as I like to say.
You Brad Culpepper.
I'm tired of you and the fucking chicken.
You can call me the puppet master. They can be my little puppets.
It's not like you make me feel the devil here.
You get to milk your own milk, I guess.
We got enough rocks here, too. We could build a pretty decent shelter just using rocks.
I'm supposed to talk loud.
Direct from Hobart, it's time for the only survival podcast in Australia dedicated to Survivor, bringing you today's interviews, episodes, and opinions from the greatest reality show on the planet. It's Survivor Oz, and here's your host.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Survivor Oz, Australia's only Survivor podcast. We are back for yet another episode, another Ozlet show, I guess you can call it, for the off-season between Survivor Co-Wrong and Survivor MILFs vs. GILFs. We are here for a very exciting, I guess you can call it, maybe also frustrating episode. We're basically talking about the future of Survivor, or at least the next 2 seasons. Who knows how much longer it will last after that, based on these 2 upcoming seasons. But that's a kind of joke, because there are some good things to talk about, but also plenty of bad things. So we will be talking about Survivor Millennials versus Gen X, and yes, it was really called that, and Survivor Game Changers. Yes, it was really called that. So it's going to be a fun episode, but we thought, because season 34 is a long time away, we don't usually do these kind of episodes when we know the cast beforehand, but we thought it's a while away. Who knows where we will be at this time next year. And obviously we need to get through one whole season before we even get to that. So we thought it'd be good to just do a general reaction episode. And the cast has been out for a while now, so it's a reaction, but it's a few weeks late. But I do remember when the cast was first posted, me and Colin were talking and thinking, oh, we kind of have to do an episode on this, because this is pretty much the most bullshit cast in Survivor history, so we kind of have to talk about it. So, yeah, it would be interesting to see if any opinions have changed since then. But we should say it's pretty obvious. Massive spoiler alert in terms of cast. There'll be no game spoilers on here. Purely just who's the cast on season 34. We probably won't even talk about the cast of season 33, although it is out if you want to look at it, because we're probably only a month away from doing our cast assessment anyway, so stay tuned for that one. But I am joined by 2 other Ozlets to talk about this. I already mentioned his name. Colin, you're back, excited to talk about what's coming up in the next year or so.
Yeah, I don't know if excited's the word. I might be more excited when we get closer, but I'm excited to rant about it some more. I'm excited to do some on-air rants. I think we've had enough off-air rants right now, but I mean, there'll be some good things.
Thought typing furiously.
Yeah, we are going to hear a lot of tapping here. We're used to that on our side of the conversations, but I don't know. I think there's some good things to talk about in both seasons. I mean, there's a lot to mock too, but let's just get it on. Let's go.
Whoa, calm down, Colin. Also joining me, I can't remember the last time I spoke to him. Rossi is back. Rossi, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I'm back. Noah, you gotta hear my voice again. Deal with it.
That was Homer Simpson crossed with a bird or something.
That was my best Crow impersonation. The Crow from 1990, whenever. Alright, this is off to a great start.
1994, for those wondering.
1994. Fun fact, I actually won a free copy of The Crow Blu-ray like 4 years ago.
Oh, nice. Did you ever watch it?
Yeah, I watched it once. But then I got towards the end and I got shot, so I couldn't finish it. I'm sorry, that was a distasteful joke, I guess. Yeah, do you guys have Empire magazine over there? I'm not sure.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, it was just a competition on the back. I'm like, why don't I enter this? And I won it, so that was cool. Anyway, Survivor is a thing. You can tell it's been a while since we've all chatted. Just catching up on the last 4 years, what competitions we've won and that. Everyone's missed Survivor Oz, haven't they? So I feel like we should maybe just get season 33 out of the way, because we have talked about that a little bit on the end of our Ozcap. Well, me and Colin did. You can listen to that. But I guess we've still can reiterate a bit, and I kind of have some changing opinions and just general thoughts. So we're not going to be talking about the cast in general, although you could talk about just based on what we're seeing, who you're looking forward to, but we're not actually going through the cast. But I did watch the trailer again beforehand just to get ready in the mindset. But Colin, Millennials versus Gen X, it's the dumbest title ever since Survivor Game Changers, but I don't know about yeah, I don't know about you, but I'm not too worried about this season, especially watching the trailer again. I'm thinking the title is so dumb, it's not as good as MILFs versus GILFs, but I think it has potential to be a decent season.
No, I agree. I'm actually more excited about it the more I think about the concept. A lot of people are worried this is going to turn into the old versus young from Nicaragua. It's not going to be that. I think that Survivor is good enough to recognize when they made a mistake and correct it. You know, outside of Redemption Island, that is. They're good enough to recognize when they made a mistake and correct it. And this cast looks a lot closer, at least in physical activity, physical strength, whatever. I think that there's going to be better competitions between the two. And everybody keeps saying that, they want some more older people, even if we're not talking about older like Joe old, in their 70s. But how long did we say, we want some people who are just middle-aged again? And now we have that. There is an issue which was brought up in our finale episode that we did, our fan recap episode. Kind of brought up, there should be another generation in there. Because I remember growing up, there was, Generation X, and then there was Generation Y, and then there was Millennials. So I don't know if they're just excluding an entire group of people here, or 20 years worth of ages, or if they're going to kind of blend them together. It doesn't really make sense to have Gen X versus Millennials. But the second part of it being, when did Gen X become the ones that are known for their work ethic? Generation X, the entire reputation was that was the slacker generation. And now
isn't that baby boomers?
It should be baby boomers, but they're talking like the millennials are the ones who don't have a job. But I thought millennials were known as entrepreneurs and more business oriented. Yeah, it just I don't understand how they're promoting this show. It seems to be very confusing. We're missing a whole generation. And the labels don't seem to stick, but the idea of putting two different generations against each other, I think, is an interesting one.
I'm always confused about the generation thing, because I was always under the impression that I was Generation Y, but there's definitely millennials on that tribe who are much older than I am. So I'm confused, and I thought Generation I was a thing, but maybe that's just a cutesy nickname. And then I've also heard Generation Z. So I don't know. What generation are you, Colin? Are you Generation X, I guess?
No, I even did the research. And No, get it right. No, I mean, I did the research before this because it's so confusing. And Generation X should be people who are born in the 60s, 70s. Generation Y should be people born in the 80s and 90s. And I don't know if it's necessarily born, but people who kind of, grow up during that age or maybe become adults during that age. And then the millennials should be the ones over the last, 15 years or so. So, I mean, I think technically I would be just on the end of Generation Y leading into millennials, but it's all so confusing. I mean, I can understand why.
So you're a millennial too?
I think I'm starting to get why the show got it wrong in their classifications, because we can't get it right.
So we're both
by that logic, then the Generation X is like Rudy.
Yeah. Well, Rudy would be baby boomers. But I mean,
I thought my dad was baby boomer, but he's much younger than Rudy.
Can we do season 34 recast as Gen X versus Millennials? Can we figure out what it's actually supposed to be here?
Well, I'm worried about these Gen Xers, and if they're that old, they better stay away from the meat, or they're all gonna get blocked prostates and all that. Yeah, what's before baby boomers, or did they only start naming them before that?
I think they only started naming them with baby boomers.
So when did baby boomers start?
Well, baby boomers would be anything post World War II, because I think that was the whole idea, was that now the men are back from war and everybody's getting it on. So there's this big baby boom that happened right after the war ended.
Oh, I thought that was because there was a huge decline in population because they blew up a lot of babies. Oh, it all makes sense now.
This is getting very dark.
Babies boom.
Yeah, I should stay away from the exploding baby jokes. Yeah. Maybe not the most tasteful of jokes. I'm sorry to anyone whose baby has exploded out there. It was not meant to offend you. Rossi, talk about millennials versus Gen. So I'm just going to shut up.
One of the things I think is most interesting is the classification. Like, I know we have quite a lot of issues with the
title
naming and like how it's not properly done, but I think it comes down to the mentality idea, which is what separates it from Nicaragua, because it's more about like how you kind of view the world more instead of like you're over 30 so you're old kind of thinking. Because from the trailer preview, whatever you want to call it, like a lot of the Gen X were talking about, kind of working hard for everything you've gotten kind of things, and the millennials were all like, I can do what I want when I want, and I'm going to no-collar attitude my way through it. So I think that's the biggest kind of division.
I thought Gen X were like all those people in those 80s movies, those teenagers who were slacking off and going out in leather jackets and causing trouble and for their parents. And
it's like the grunge era, isn't it?
Well, I thought isn't that generation? Oh, I give up.
Well, then because that would be their mentality at the same age the millennials are now, so maybe it's like through aging they've changed, and I think that's what they're going off of, because a lot of the people in the Gen X are not like young, they're not like 20 or something, so they are older. So maybe they're moved past their rebellious leather jacket, like smoking ages.
What's dumb about this twist is the baby boomers complained about the Gen Xers. The Gen Xers complained about the Gen Ys. The Gen Ys complained about the millennials. And when the millennials are older, they will complain about the generation, whatever's next, generation robot or whatever's coming after.
Generation Z.
Yeah, Generation Z. And then I don't know where you go after Z. That's kind of the end. It's quite dark to think about that there may be nothing after Z.
You're ending the world and we're only 15 minutes into the podcast.
Exploding babies are back. A whole generation is just going to end. So it's dumb because, of course, they're complaining, but that's just happened since the beginning of time. The old cavemen were complaining about the young cavemen. So it's just kind of a bit redundant, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I get really sick of the caveman complaints I hear nowadays. But I do get what you're saying. I think it's going to make for something interesting on the season. Like, that's the one thing you said, that it's all the complaining that's going on. The Gen X will complain about the millennials and everything. Usually these seasons are built on pride, like men versus women. Well, okay, the men are going to be like, I'm proud that, men are strong like this, and the women are like, oh, I'm proud that we're strong like this. And we didn't really get that with Nicaragua, because I think all of the old people were instantly like, there's no way we're winning this in a physical challenge. Like, what a waste of time. But if you build a show around what's wrong with the other generation, and that is the one thing that you hit on, that people are always complaining about, well, this current generation or this other generation or these old people don't get it. Now you've made it into a competition. It's not we're better than them. It's, well, this is why they suck.
Yeah, which will be fun. Like, people are complaining about that. Oh, every episode is then going to be talking about the differences and it's going to be really forced. But I think it'll be fun because it's been a while since we've had a two-tribe season. I think we're lacking tribal rivalries in Survivor lately. Like, with three tribes, it's just everyone's going ahead. I like it when the tribes are like really against, like Thailand style and stuff like that. So I think it could bring out that. The title, and we talked about in our other episode that should be Survivor Mama Luca or whatever it was, which we'll get to season 34,
yeah.
But Colin will be happy about that. But the title was just garbage. We all know that. Millennials versus Gen X is just the worst title. One thing I'm worried about is surely they're going to switch the tribes, and it would hate it for them not to switch. Maybe they'll switch into 3, maybe they'll switch into 2 after 16. But with fans versus favourites, they all have locations in the title, and they all have tribe names. Mm-hmm. With this one, it's kind of like heroes versus villains, where heroes versus villains, I know that these tribes aren't actually called the Millennials, but there was no tribe swap. Are we worried that they're going to stick with this because of the title, or am I reading far too much in?
I think that they'll probably find a way to stick with it. If you look at like the men versus women seasons, at least with Amazon and Vanuatu, I mean, that whole concept was kind of gone, at least in Amazon, very early, but they found a way to kind of bring it back in the finale. Oh, we still have one man versus one woman. You know, this is appropriate. They'll probably find ways in editing to do it, but it does kind of limit them for what they could do. And the thing that's most confusing is that you said heroes versus villains. You could use that title because it always will be heroes versus villains. Even if people work together, you are a hero going in and you are a villain going in. If this isn't a competition, though, between Gen X and Millennials, if these people just don't play along, if they don't like this branding and they don't make a big deal out of it, then your season's shot. Now, granted, we know that they've seen the show before they named this, so obviously it does get played up, but wouldn't it just be easier if you're going to have just the theme as the title? Why not just call 34 Game Changers and use your Mama Lukanuka as the subtitle for this one? Because people don't need to know the location for an All-Star season. You don't need to know All-Stars Panama.
Have they just given up? I get the feeling they've just given up. They're 34 seasons. They don't care anymore. I don't know, Rossi, what do you think about the naming of the season and how that might play out?
I mean, you do bring up an interesting point referencing heroes versus villains, because that was like one of the few seasons in the history of the show that didn't switch tribes. And I think that was that as soon as it turned in Africa, it was a huge deal, and so many seasons switched tribes. Not all of them did, like South Pacific and things like that, but a lot of the seasons switched tribes. So I think it's interesting, especially because it is so versus, that they wouldn't want. I don't know. I'm interested to see if they don't, because I can see reasons for it, but also I can see them doing it because why not? They can.
Yeah, it's just I can't imagine them not switching tribes, although it's been a while, so maybe they want to do something different. And they probably feel they need to put the twist into the title, but Survivor Worlds Apart is called Survivor Worlds Apart. It's not called Survivor Blue Collar, No Collar, White Collar.
Yeah.
They could have just come up, Worlds Apart, it means nothing. It's the most substanceless title ever.
Since
it's just
one world.
random words. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. It's not a bad title, it's just ridiculous if you think about it. But it's called Worlds Apart, and I think we talked about this, they call it Survivor Generations, or Survivor Generations Apart, or something like that. Who thought this was good? But I will say that I watched the trailer again, and I think the cast, they look fun. Yeah, all the confessionals in the preview are playing up to the whole I am a millennial and all that, but I think it looks like a good mixed cast with some fun characters. And yeah, I think the location looks good, so I'm actually excited. I know a lot of people aren't, but I think this could be a good season. Of course, it could be complete garbage, but I think people are a little over worried for this season. So, Colin, any last parting words on Millennials versus Gen X before we do a cast assessment in a month or so?
Oh, anybody who's worried just at the title of a season needs to go back to past seasons, because there have been some dumb twists and dumb titles. I mean, the idea of fans versus favorites originally seemed really dumb to me, and blood versus water, that's the best example you can give. Oh, this is going to be the worst season of Survivor ever because it's a dumb concept and a dumb title. Well, it turned out to be a good season, so no worries. So I don't think anybody should be getting worried this early on, and it's a good thing that they did include those confessionals in there, because the natural reaction is to just respond to, wow, what a terrible title, what a dumb concept, this is worse than No Call, or this makes no sense. But if you do get to see some of the people in there, I can already see how this works, and I could see how we're going to have some fun characters, kind of like we had on Co-Wrong.
Yeah. So just relax a little, people. Rossi, parting words on Survivor MILFs versus GILFs.
Two things. One, going back to the idea of twists that we were talking about, and not switching tribes or switching tribes or whatever, is that considering we know, I mean, this probably may not have come into production's mind, but knowing that we know that 34 is going to be game changers, and probably they're going to throw every single twist ever at them, they may go back to more basics for this season instead of having two crazy seasons back to back. I mean, but who knows? That's just something that kind of popped into my head. And then also, I'm super, super excited for Mari to be on the next season, 33. Like, I've never been so much more excited for a cast member because she is like the celebrity casting of the season. So,
okay, so which one is this? Because I'm not as up on the celebrities, I guess.
Firstly, do you want to tell us who Mari is and how she is a celebrity?
Okay. In the preview, she was one of the Millennials that got featured in the preview. She's a part of a famous YouTube channel known as Smosh Games.
Oh, yeah, the famous Smosh Games, right? I'm just trying to be in with the Millennials right now. I don't actually know.
Yeah. I did not watch Amazing Race season 28.
I don't think she was on it.
Yeah, enough with the YouTube people, but Rossi's excited for us, so you think she'll be a good castmate, Ross?
I think she'll be interesting, and she definitely kind of is a part of that millennials attitude that they have been showing us or throwing at us, like, but who knows?
We're not going to get too in-depth into the cast because we really know nothing about the people at this point, but when we're talking about generations, there may be something to the fact that there's an entire generation missing here because the age of the millennials goes from, 21 here up to 31. Oh, no, sorry, 18 up to 31. So the oldest millennial is 31. The youngest Gen Xer they have is 33. No, yeah, so I guess, yeah, they really have merged generations here because we have 31 to 33. So these two are only 2 years off between the Gen X and the millennials here. So
we know Survivor's not good at their aging because, like, if you remember jumping back to Panama, they had younger men the same age as older women, like.
And Serene said, I thought I was in the young group.
Yeah, the Survivor does not know how to cast age-wise.
Should it have been a four-tribe season, and we have, like, people in their 20s, people in their 30s,
and the
people
baby
in their
boomers.
40s, and people in their 50s.
And the oldest Gen Xer we have here is 51 years old. So, I mean, I would think that would bring them pretty close to baby boomers. But, again, we're just getting too technical for Survivor here.
So, again, it's kind of interesting because then we talked about, there's more older people, but then also that has to be, like, 51 as the oldest age has to be down there in terms of seasons. Like, last season there was Joe, Worlds Apart, there was... Well, actually, Worlds Apart was probably pretty similar. Carolyn was probably around 51, 52. Was there an older person than Carolyn on that season?
No, I think she was one of the older ones.
Sam Will, I don't know. Will is not 50. I don't think he's even in his 40s. Sam Wendell, Sir Keith was 50. Yeah, that was a dumb thing to say then. It's pretty much like every other season.
Yeah.
Except for Co-Wrong because of Super Joe, Grouchy Joe, Meat Eating Joe. Alright, let's move on. I'm looking forward to the season. Can't say it's been on my mind too much because there's a lot of Australian Survivor stuff going on, plus this 34, which we're going to get to right now. But I think it's going to have potential, and I'm not too worried about it like a lot of people are. So let's move on to Survivor 34. And we were going to do this episode a long time ago, and we didn't even know the title, but the title has come out. And this title is called... It's Survivor Game Changers, and we'll get to that because that is clearly one of the most forced titles in the history of the show. Followed by the location, which is I think it's the Mamanuca Islands. I don't actually have it in front of me, but I think that was it. which again is baffling how they put the game changes and then a location title and not with the season 33, and then in season 31 they put the location first and then had second chances the subtitle. I feel like they just don't care anymore because they're 34 seasons in and they just don't really give two shits about Survivor at this point, but I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. So we'll talk about the cast again. It's not a cast, we're not going through every single player, although no doubt most people will get brought up, like right now, because I'll read through the names just quickly in case you haven't seen the list, but just Google it if you do want to see the list. But on this season, we've got, I'll just go through in alphabetical order. I can't believe this is an actual season we're about to watch on TV, but this is the cast.
They random.org it.
Yeah, random.org. That's where this cast comes from, random.org, sponsored by Vockeroo. Andrew Belke, Redemption Island and Caramoan, Brad Culpepper, Blood vs. Water, Aubrey Bracco, Co-Wrong, Caleb Reynolds, I'll get to that, Co-Wrong, Sierra Easton, Blood vs. Water in Cambodia, Jeff Varner, Australia and Cambodia, Sari, Panama, Micronesia, and Heroes vs. Villains, JT Thomas, well, not JT Thomas, just JT, Hokencheens and Heroes vs. Villains, Debbie Wanner, Co-Wrong, Malcolm Freeberg, Philippines and Caramoan, Haley Ford, Worlds Apart, I think that says everything in my tone there. Aussie Lust, or however you say it. Cook, let's not even read his 50 seasons out. Ty Train, Co-Wrong, Sandra Diaz Twine, Pearl Islands and Heroes vs. Villains, Tony Vlachos, Cagayan, Sarah Lucina, Cagayan, Troyzanne Robertson, One World. How convenient that she's last. Sierra Dawn Thomas, Worlds Apart.
She's a game changer.
I'm holding a pen in my hand right now. I might just stab my hand at the moment. I'm just... And there are two people from season 33 that we just talked about, and I haven't actually seen who they are. I don't really want to know. I'm not sure if you two know, but we'll avoid
I don't want to
talking
know
about because I haven't seen it and I don't want to be spoiled. Sure, it will get spoiled before the season comes apart, I'm sure. But I haven't clicked on who they are, but we know there's two of them. So, yeah, sorry if you want us just to talk about them, but I won't be at least. So, boy, oh boy. Yeah, remember that cast from Survivor Cambodia? Like, they brought back all these people that have been waiting for Second Savage, and Jeff Barter, and Kimmy Kappenberg, and Terry Dietz, and Wigglesworth, and Stephen Fishback, and all these new school favourites like Keith, and Jeremy, and Sierra, and Vita. Yeah, now we've got season 34 Survivor Game Changers. I've got so much to add, so I feel like someone should just talk here because I've just got so much to rage about, and it's probably going to go for half an hour or so, so we have a lot of opportunities to rage. But, Colin, just your gut feeling, initial reaction to those names, without thinking too much deep in.
Well, I mean,
do the crow, Noah. Do the crow.
Yeah, crow. You remember probably when we first read these casts, waiting to record another episode, which I don't remember if it was a Survivor episode or not, but I think our immediate reaction was there were some good names on that original list, and that most of the people that ended up on the season we assumed wouldn't end up on the season. There's no way they're putting Andrea on a third time. There's no way Ozzy's coming on a fourth time.
That's the salt in the wound. There was an original list that could have been good.
Yeah, you know what? Like, I joked about this before, but in all seriousness, this season might as well be called Survivor Second Chancers versus Third Chancers versus Fourth Chancers, because you cover all categories. 8 of the 18 names you just named will be playing for the third time or more. That's almost 50% of the returnees are going to be 3-time players. 3 of these people are about to become 4-time players. It's just excessive. And there are people I'm excited to see on here. I'm glad we have Troyzanne back. I'm glad we have Tony and Sarah on here. I'm thrilled that we have Debbie on again. But at the same time, I'm not excited to see them play with this group of people. Sierra, I could watch Sierra on every single season. I think she's that good. I could watch Varner on every single season.
Sierra Easton, please say
Sierra Easton. Not the other Sierra that won't be named. But I don't want to see them play with Brad Culpepper and Caleb. I'll save a lot of my rants for when we get into the cast later on. But you just said immediate reaction. Immediate reaction is this is the wrong cast. And I think every fan has been wrong about returnees before. Everybody questioned why Parvati was back on Micronesia. Who knows how many seasons ago. This is different. These aren't people who, are going to be... Half of these people, as I said, we've seen play at least twice, maybe even 3 times. We know what we're getting. This isn't the type of cast to be excited about anything for. It's incredibly disappointing. And the fact they're calling it Game Changers, I mean, this might as well have just been Survivor. Most of the people we wanted dropped out, so we're scrambling right now.
Yeah, this cast reeks of desperation and last minute, doesn't it? It just reeks of there was no plan here, or there was a plan and it fell through.
And those are the rumors, too. I mean, I don't know how much we'll touch on those, but the rumors are that original cast that there were some great names on there for, that a lot of people just weren't willing to go through with it, and they had to change things up at the last minute, and in changing the cast, they had to change the theme as well, which is why we have Survivor Game Changers, when half of these people are anything but a game changer.
Yeah, this theme, we may as well just say it, because there's no point going through every player and saying, how are they game changers? Mm-hmm. This is just a random mumbo-jumbo to fit with this cast.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't just go the location. Why couldn't they just do that?
Call it the Mama Luka. Call it that. And have all-stars underneath. Well, that's even more of a stretch, saying all-stars. Some stars. They should have just called this Survivor Some Stars.
Survivor Favorites versus Hey, Remember Them?
Yeah. They're going to have a lot of preview at the beginning of the first episode saying, and Sierra Dawn Thomas, and they're going to have to show all the footage of her for people to actually remember.
Well, at the same time, just not to cut into Rossi's time here, but the Game Changers twist, I mean, Probst is going to have to explain these people on camera the way that he did in Heroes vs. Villains, and we saw how he had to scramble with Candace and Danielle on their season. Can you imagine how much of this episode is going to be dedicated to, seriously, people, listen to me, Sierra Dawn Thomas changed the game of Survivor forever?
That's why Second Chance just works so well, because it's a vague term that fits with everything. Mm. And we'll get to that again, because there's stuff to bring up there. I did say with this cast that with Second Chance, there was pretty much 15 people I was excited to see, and 5 people I was like, I don't want them back. This cast, it's 15 people I don't want to see back, and only 5 people, so it's just very, why? And I don't have the full list of the people who didn't make it on who are rumoured, but just off the top of my head, some ones that hurt me a lot to even say were John Mish, who I'm just devastated didn't make it on. Carolyn Rivera, which 2 people from her season made it on, and she didn't, which just hurts. Earl Cole, which hurts more than anything in the world.
Mm-hmm. Danny Boatwright.
Natalie
Bolton.
They're the 4 main ones. Oh yeah, Natalie Bolton. They're the 5 main
Anderson.
ones. They're the 6 main ones that hurt so much.
Yeah, Natalie, come on.
Yeah.
Are they saving some of these? I can understand with the winners. There's always the idea they're saving them for an all-winner season. But you have JT and Suri on there. There's no way you're saving everybody for an all-winner season.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the saving for the all-winners thing, because I actually don't think it's going to happen. A lot of people pull quotes from Jeff or Mark or anything like that and say, oh yeah, they clearly want it. But every interview I've ever heard, they don't seem that excited about all winners. They answer people's questions because people want to know about it, but they don't really seem that excited. And at this point, they don't know if there's going to be a season 35 or a season 36. So I don't really buy the whole saving thing. I think if they want someone cast, they'll put them on. And I think Sandra is a big example of that, because if anyone was being saved for an all winners, it would be Sandra. So personally, I don't think they are, but I don't know, maybe they are. We should also point out, because you can look at the season 33 cast, and there are no African American male players on that cast. There are no African American males on this cast. So we're going 2 seasons, and already in terms of like returning players, there's a lack of diversity in like good African American players. Like, how many times can we see James Clement or Jeremy play? So that just hurts even more, which is just really frustrating that we could have had Earl on this season, who was like the greatest African American male player ever. Anyway, Rossi, general gut reaction to this cast. Are you in agreement for the most part?
I'm a little bit slightly more optimistic. There are some people that you're like, oh, I don't really want to see them, but I'd be okay with seeing them. I'll give them a chance. But honestly, I feel like they replaced Lynn Spillman with like a goldfish, because the most recent, like the furthest away player, like most closest to Borneo, is Heroes versus Villains, which is season 20. There's no one earlier than that. Like, everyone has played Heroes versus Villains or later. And we had like Check and Chance, which had Kelly Wigglesworth, season 1. Like, you know, to think that they just dropped that all of a sudden because, I don't know, it just seems ridiculous. And there were people like cast, like, they're original on the original list, like Danny and Earl, 14 and 11, like.
That's an interesting point about the old schoolers, because it seemed with Second Chance, and even with Survivor Blood vs. Water, Survivor Philippines even, that there was this time when Jeff was kind of against old schoolers. He said, people won't remember them. And with Second Chance, it was so popular even before the season, because we felt, this is a change. Finally, they're actually bringing back Andrew Savage and Terry Dietz and Shane Powers. Kelly Wigglesworth from season 1, they're taking a risk with Kimmy Kappenberg. And for the most part, these people, Jeff Varner was a huge character. Kimmy made it far in her season. Even Stephen Fishpack.
I just love it. You know, we really had them deliver on the old school players. Jeff Varner was a big character. Kimmy made it far in her season.
Well, I was a huge fan of Kimmy, but they didn't frickin' show her. Jervis made the finals. Tina came back, and she did very well in Blood vs. Water. And it felt like we were at a change, and that they were more open to these old schoolers. Season 34, we're out. All new people. So, yeah.
I mean, if people like Jeff Varner got more votes than like Brad Culpepper, or who else was the Troy Zan, like people who are really recent, and like Kimmy Kappenberg got over people like Carolyn and stuff like that. Like, I'm surprised that they're all of a sudden like, well, they wouldn't get up, like they wouldn't be received well. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Put out like some like Silas Gaither and just test out the waters. Like, why not do it? Like, who cares?
But even like this season, almost half of them are 3-timers or 4-timers. If we're being realistic, if we look at the first 10 seasons, how many one-time, like Kimmy Kappenberg, yes, she's a random pre-merge, but she's probably the most memorable pre-merge in the history of the show. How many one-timers realistically? Like, yeah, super fans, we would love to see like Gretchen on and
T-Bird.
Roger, T-Bird and all that. But realistically, a lot of the well has dried up with the one-time old schoolers. But in saying that, we've got Aussie 4-timer on here. We've got 3-timers. There are so many good old schoolers that I would love to see back, like Lex
Jervis.
Vandenberg.
Lex, yeah. Kathy.
Johnny Fairplay, Kathy Vavrick O'Brien. There's all these great... Eliza, Amy, other people. Tom, Jerry, even. I would rather see Jerry for a 4th time over some of these people back for a 2nd time. So even if they didn't take a risk...
Please, Shian!
Oh, yes. even Alicia would be great, I think. I'm probably alone in there, but I would like to see Shan and Alicia back.
The original
Jenna
Alicia,
Lewis.
not the new Alicia. Let's just be clear on that.
Yeah.
Sorry,
I'd take the
Rossi.
new Alicia over some of these.
So, yeah, I would love to see a lot of the one-timers, Sean Rector, Burton, all these people, Sean Caniff. But realistically, a lot of the well has dried up. But it doesn't mean there aren't a lot of other good old schoolers they could bring.
Can we also talk about the fact that we're getting another all-star season this quickly? I mean, we went through this era where it was just returning players, and everybody looks at that era of Heroes versus Villains, Redemption Island, South Pacific, Philippines, and then Karamoan, and they're like, there was way too many returning players. But honestly, if you add up the amount of returning players from Karamoan, Philippines, South Pacific, and Redemption Island, you have the same amount of returning people coming back over the course of 7 seasons as we've now had over the course of 4 seasons. We're having 2 full All-Star seasons, so we're really no better than we were when the show was just overdoing it with all the returning players. And I think that's something that's going to hurt this. I mean, it seems every time they hit on something with returning players, they bring them back too quickly and too many, and people just get sick of it. It happened with Karamoa, and it's going to happen again here.
So that doesn't bother me too much because, like, Survivor's not going away anytime soon, but it is in its last stretch. Like, we may get to 40, we may get to 44 or something like that, but it is in its last stretch. And there are still a lot of players I want to see back. So, honestly, if they did a full returnees every 4 seasons from now on, it wouldn't bother me. What bothers me is the cast. Because even looking at new schoolers, like, obviously there's going to be a bias for new schoolers coming back. That's just always going to happen. But if you look at the past, 10 seasons or so, there are just so many people, like Korong, you've got, obviously the
Sydney.
4 are coming back, but then... What was that, sorry?
Sydney.
Oh, yeah, Sydney, which was a big one. I wish she was back. Jason, Peter, bit biased there. Scott, even. Worlds apart, you've got people like Carolyn and Rodney and Mike and Jen. Sam Undersir, you've got John Mish, Natalie Anderson, Josh Canfield, Jacqueline, Nadia Anderson. Then you've got Kagayan. They've done most.
They've
of the
mined
good
the
ones
whole
back.
season at this point.
Yeah, but Trish would be good. I wouldn't mind seeing Morgan back, but then the
I just
other
don't
one.
get the support for these players that are that are recent, but like not as top of the pick, the top of the litter. Like I don't get where, was he getting all these tweets on Twitter about when Sierra's really looking good this episode. I wonder when she's gonna come back. Like her bold strategy talk is gonna come back soon.
Did anybody other than Jeff Probst and whoever added the text to the end of Caleb's episode want Caleb to come back? I can't think of anything the guy did outside of passing out in a challenge, which, hey, I mean, he worked hard in the challenge. It was a scary moment, but it's not something he did that he's going to repeat this time. When you get a repeat player, you want to see them do what they did the first time. Do we want to see him pass out in a challenge and almost get kissed by Ty for a second season row? Because that's all he gave us.
Yeah, well, I think the people that want to see him back are the ones who watched Big Brother, but I didn't see it. So based on exactly what I saw on Survivor in 4 episodes, there are so many more. Hayden Moss, he was on Big Brother. He would have been a better choice. But that's what I'm saying is I'm not too concerned about the recency bias. Of course, I like old schoolers, and I'm not concerned about having a returning player every 3 or 4 seasons. It's the casting choice. Like, I could easily make a 20-person cast of all new schoolers that would completely trump this. But it's just these choices makes it seem like, oh no, there's too many returning player seasons if they're bringing back Sierra, Dawn, Thomas. But yeah, let's talk about some of the players. Then we've mentioned them all. Of course, some keep getting brought up, Sierra, Dawn, Thomas. But Rossi, talk about some of the ones you're most annoyed that are back, and even some you're most annoyed that didn't make it on, although we kind of touched on that. Colin, talk about some of the ones that you were most annoyed that didn't, that are on, and ones that you would have liked to seen on instead of them, maybe. But there, obviously, a lot of them. There's probably only like 6 people I'm excited to see back on this cast, but just maybe the 4 or 5 people that you're just so frustrated about, and just a big standout. Obviously, we're going to have a lot of crossing over with all of this here, but. I mean, this cast is something else.
I said it already. Caleb, there's nothing there. At the same time, maybe Caleb's the one person we could see something new from, so I'm a bit split there. I don't have any desire to see him again because he didn't entertain me or do anything the first time around, but he could be that one player where we don't know what we're getting going into this, so I don't know about that. Andrea is one that I don't understand it at all. She didn't do anything different in either of her games, and I don't mind her as a character. I think that, especially on Redemption Island, she's one of the few people who really earned her reputation as being, I guess, a favorite, if you want to call it that. If anybody can become a favorite off of Redemption Island with the way the editing was, I mean, they deserve some credit for that, but this is going to be our 3rd time seeing Andrea, and she's not a brilliant player, and she's not the type of person who really mixes up the game at all. And she's not that interesting of a character. I think Sierra, obviously, there's no need for her to be there. Haley, no need for her to be there. I'm really hoping that all of us are completely in agreement here, though, that Ozzy, every time he's come back, he has somehow played a worse game. And
I'm just looking at his picture here. It's hurting
I
me.
know. And every time he's come back, somehow he's damaged his reputation more and more. So I don't understand why he would want to come back, and I don't understand why the show would want to come back. This isn't a guy who is the same one he was back in 2006 or whenever, when Cook Islands was airing, where everybody's like, Ozzy's amazing. And then they watch it back over again, like, well, maybe not. I mean, bad social game. Every season he's played, he's progressively gotten worse and worse and more unlikable. But he's not one of those unlikable people like Tony, where he's a big character. He's just downright unlikable now, and I don't
South
see
Pacific
him.
Was the breaking point.
It was.
There was no redeeming factors from at all.
Exactly, and the game he played at the same time was worse. People were like, "Oh, well, he almost won the game." That was the whole issue with Redemption Island as a twist, is that somebody who got voted out pre-merge, who allowed themselves to get voted out because they were that arrogant, could almost win the game when they weren't even involved in the game. It's just, if you add...
South Pacific was such a perfect end for both Ozzy and Coach. Like, I
was.
love Coach, but it was just the perfect end to their story.
Yeah, and it felt like that's what Ozzy wanted too. You know, he talked about, it maybe being his final time playing Survivor. Why come back unless he's had some type of, big life-changing event and he's looked back on his season and been like, man, I'm just an arrogant jerk. I don't know why I played like that, and he wants to turn it around. But I don't think that's the case. If you add up all of these players and you say, would you trade any of these people for Ozzy, there is no way I keep Ozzy on this cast. I would be willing to accept every other player on there if you just removed Ozzy.
Yeah, if he was the first Pooch, this season would completely change.
I think I would probably enjoy it a bit more than just satisfaction.
Rupert his ass out this season. Yeah, Ozzy was the big... I'm pretty much in agreement with you. I feel like there are some defenders for Haley. I cannot defend that at all. Mm-mm. All she did was surf on a piece of wood. That is all she did. And then talked about Tribe America. That's all Haley did. Sure, maybe it will be a Kelly Wentworth type thing and she'll turn around and be a big player. And
let's be honest.
Lord knows, probably...
They probably wanted... I don't think they wanted Jen back, but they wanted to recreate what they maybe had with Jen, because Jen was popular, but there was no way Jen was ever coming back on the show. So they're like, well, let's put Haley in there. It's almost like Jen.
Yeah, that's what I get. I feel like, they were kind of annoyed because Jen kind of semi-quit. And they're like, but we want someone like Jen. Let's have almost Jen.
Yeah.
That's what we're going to call Haley now.
Almost Jen Ford.
Yeah. I don't know if Frosty, you're back or not. So I'm just kind of talking. But one person, because you touched on it, Sarah Dawn Thomas, here's the thing with here's my rant on Sierra, because obviously we've mentioned her, so there's almost no point in having a big rant because I think it's pretty obvious our thoughts. My rant on Sierra is Kelly Wentworth was brought back. I didn't vote for Kelly Wentworth. I still don't think she should have been brought back on a season of Survivor, even though she was a good character. Well, she was a decent player who made it fourth. I didn't vote for her. I don't think she should have been there. She was okay. She redeemed herself. Kelly Wentworth went out fifth. Sierra Dawn Thomas was on a season. She came fifth. Let's see what she can do. She had a 0 edit on a season of newbies, on a season of people like Will, on a season of people like Tyler, on a season of people like Almost Jen. She had no edit. She had no game. She was constantly talking about, I might flip, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go out fifth. And I don't even know what she sounds like. I forgot what she even looked like. And I know the name of every single freaking Survivor there ever was. I can't even get to her voice at this point.
There is one argument I could have for that. But again, I will defend your point at the same time. But if we go back to Cook Islands, Parvati was 6th place, and we got nothing out of her in Cook Islands. Now, at the same time, there was no effort made to ever build Parvati as a character, because there probably just wasn't anything there to work with. With Sierra, it was almost like she was that character in the last few episodes that they really crammed down our throat. They wanted us to believe that she was some big underdog and that she could pull off some big upset. They tried something with her, but there just wasn't anything there, and I think that's the difference. They tried with her. I don't understand why they would want to bring her back. And it should have been clear to us when she popped up on The Price is Right, representing Survivor. Along with Ozzy, should we say.
You could argue that Parvati was brought back because she was memorable. But Noah is saying she can't even remember what Sierra looked like.
Yeah, but that's
within like 3 seasons that this has to...
Exactly, and the fact is, we did see a lot of Sierra. She was on the screen a lot more than Parvati was, which really, like I said, I'm kind of going against the argument, but defending your point on Sierra, that regardless of whether we did see her or not, or whether other people have reached that point in the game and still come back and offered something, I think that with Sierra, we did see something out of her. It just wasn't enough to make her interesting enough to bring back.
But my rebuttal with the Parvati argument is, I see where you're going, but at the same time, Sierra was on a season of all newbies, of 18 people, and she didn't get shown. Now she's coming back to a full returning player with all these camera holes. Well, not really all these camera holes based on this cast, but...
Jen.
Parvati was on a season of 20 players, so already the 20-player season editing is not as good. But she came back and she won, and she was also on a season of 10 newbies, who a lot of them, like you were on a season with Mary and stuff like that. Plus, Parvati was prevalent in the early game, but her edit really started to spike when people like Ozzy and that were out of the game, Penna and stuff like that. So I see where you're going, but I still feel like there's differences between bringing Parvati back and her being a big character.
And I do agree, there's nothing left to see with Sierra.
Yeah, and she'll probably win this damn thing.
Well, let's remember all of our predictions on Second Chances, though. Yeah. Monica, the winner, because this type of player comes back and wins.
Even if I think Sierra will win, I'm so not picking her as my prediction. Just I refuse to even acknowledge it.
What about not Jen?
Almost Jen?
Almost Jen. And I feel like if Sierra or diehard Sierra fans, all 2 of you are listening...
Is there a Twitter?
Yeah, the diehard Sierra fan. It's nothing against Sierra as a... Well, it's not... We're basing this on what we saw in Worlds Apart. I'm sure Sierra is a fine person. We're not going to rip into her actual, like, her as a person. But what we saw in Worlds Apart, and then finding a attractive young strategist female, there is 32 seasons worth of different players you could have brought back. Like, Jeffra Jeffra is not the most memorable person. She wasn't a very good player. She was on a memorable season. She's good looking. She has a unique name and a unique accent. And I feel like Jeffra is someone where we didn't see everything that we could see. And that she could come back and she still wouldn't be the biggest person in the edit. But I feel like she could still bring us something new.
Alexis, who was in the mix for this cast.
Yeah, well, I'm not an Alexis fan, but I do agree with your
Colin,
point.
you had good points, and then you brought that up.
Well, come on, at least we remember Alexis crying. What do we remember about Sierra?
I can't stand Alexis, but in argument for her, at least there's something new that we could see from her, and she could go on to be a big Kelly Wentworth character. Well, I'm going to assume you are back now, Rossi, so I don't know if you heard my question for Colin, but which names stick out to you? Obviously, we talked about Ozzy, Sierra. For some reason, I feel like you're going to be a Haley defender, and I'm not going to like it. I don't know why I get that vibe. But which 4 or 5 players just really stand out as a big frustration for you?
Okay, can I address the thing first that you said that you think I'm a Haley defender?
Go for it.
Because it's true.
Oh, no.
You're too predictable, Ross.
Okay, she's the one out of like all the WTFs that I'm excited. Not excited. I don't think I'm excited for anyone to return this season. But like she's the one person that like when I think I'm gonna give her slack. I think she was interesting, and I think she had a lot of interesting things to say. She's an interesting character. She was a law student but had this no collar attitude. So I think
because they put her on the no collar tribe and she had to live up to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Nina was put on the no-collar tribe, too. We're not writing home about Nina's no-collar attitude life.
I would rather Nina come back.
I completely agree, yeah.
I don't, but anyway. I think she's going to be interesting, and I'm giving her a benefit of the doubt. If she's a flop, then you can throw this podcast in my face.
I will. Because I'm an asshole.
Ozzy, I would never want to see again. I didn't even think that he would possibly come back. Sierra, no. Caleb, not Cable.
Cable's on this
Please,
season.
no more
just
Cable.
Gets worse and worse.
We've had too much Cable on Survivor.
No, Caleb, don't want to see. Malcolm, I don't want to see. Debbie, I don't want to see. Aubrey, I don't want to
get off.
Debbie
would be fantastic.
Bored.
She's like the only character on this season.
This is the loudest Noah has been, I think, a season and a half.
In 2 episodes.
Troyzen, I don't want to see. Sarah, I don't want to see.
Oh, Sarah!
You want to see Haley, and then all the people who actually have potential, you're just saying, oh, I don't want to see them.
Sarah's one of the biggest idiots in the history of the show.
I got a big argument for that one. I don't think we should get into it right now, but I have a big argument for that one.
Even if she is, she's still a decent character to bring back.
I mean, she's memorable, but like, I don't want to see her. You asked me who I wanted to see. You can't, Noah.
No way.
I don't know. I don't want to see a lot of these people. Yes, some of them were memorable. Like I'll give you credit, Debbie and Sarah and Aubrey and that are memorable, but I just don't want to see them.
I want to touch on a few people. Aubrey is one where I think she earned her spot as a returning player, but I think I've spoken my thoughts on Aubrey that I don't need to see Aubrey back. I would have rather Sydney. I feel like Sydney's got more to bring.
Is it going to help Aubrey, too, not having the chance to reflect on her game? I mean, there really has never been anybody to come back and do it well this close together. And I think that's where it bothers me more with Aubrey more than anything, because I think she's the type of person who's smart enough that if you were to just leave her be for 2 or 3 seasons and bring her back, she could easily win this. But I don't think there's any chance of it happening this soon.
Yeah, too soon. And yeah, it's just a bit overexposure. But at the same time, I feel like you need a bunch of co-wrongers because that was a decent car. Well, there were decent characters to bring back, and that ironically, some of the co-wrongers are like Ty and Ty's. This cast is broken into 3 people. I'm excited to see back. People like Sierra who just stabbed my heart, and then people who like, yeah, like I'm not excited about them, but I also like I'm not jumping up and down. I can't wait for this to start because of Ty, but I'm not angry that Ty's back either. Like I feel like Ty is a good mix from this cast, and basically, at least is like I never thought I'd be rooting for Ty, but based on this cast, he's one of the more ones that I'm kind of okay with. One person I want to touch on. Well, actually, let's break it down into all of these players. I was going to just touch on one of them, but let's talk about Sandra Diaz Twine and also Sari Fields and JT Thomas. I'm going to lose a lot of fans here, but I'm not excited to see Sandra back. And I think it boils down to what you said earlier in the episode, Colin, which was who she's playing with.
I think I agree. Sandra, I don't even know if it's just who she's playing with. For one thing, I think that when you're coming back a fourth time, there's going to be a huge target on you. When you're coming back a third time, there's going to be a huge target on you. When you're coming back as somebody who's won 2 times in a row, you have no chance of surviving. She can't do what she did the first 2 times. There's no way to go under the radar. I think the reason it worked a second time is because a lot of people, and this is where I think history sometimes gets forgotten, but when Heroes and Villains came out, Sandra was one of those characters a lot of people were like, oh, that's interesting, but did we really need to see her again? Now she's this legendary player. I don't think there's any way her reputation allows her to survive past a few votes. And I think that bothers me because she will never again be considered the greatest player of all time if she goes out that early. With JT, I think that he's the one that I'm a little bit excited about seeing come back. I agree. For another try, because he does have a reputation to redeem, and I don't think it's going to be hard for him to redeem it. I do think it was a dumb move, but it's something that a lot of people would have fallen for, not knowing Russell at the time. It's not going to be hard for him to recover, but let's give him the chance to go out on a high note. Sandra, it's going to do nothing but hurt her legacy.
Yeah, I feel like JT... I'm not a JT fan, but he's one of the few I'm excited to see because I think there's a lot of potentials. He could either redeem himself or do another stupid move or go out early or go on to be I feel like this season we could be viewing JT as one of the best players if he goes far. And
it's been 14 seasons. That's a long time. I mean, if we were bringing somebody back for Heroes versus Villains and they hadn't played since season 6... that would be considered, wow, it's been a long time since we've seen this person. So it's nice to have somebody back that we haven't seen in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I have no complaints about JT being back, even if I'm not a big fan of him. But Sari as well, I like Sari, maybe not as much as most people. I don't need to see her back for a 4th time. Yeah, she's a big fan favourite, and yeah, she didn't do as well on the 3rd time, but I'm not clamoring to see Sari back of all people, but there's more people to complain about than her. But Rossi, what do you think about the 3 Heroes versus Villains people on this?
JT, I have the exact opposite opinion of you guys.
Of course you do.
That's why we have diversity in the arguments.
It's not that I dislike him that much. I'm not a fan. I'm like you. I'm not a fan of him, but I don't know. I just don't think he has much to prove.
But do you at least agree that he is a player who can change his game? We're not just going to get the same JT we got the last 2 times.
Sort of. I still think he's going to kind of just walk into this really sociable guy that people really like, and then kind of use that. I think he's just going to combine both games into one new one.
And what about Sandra and Sari?
I don't think I don't think I'm going to get my head around Sandra at all. It's tough because I like her and I think she's great, but there's no need for her to come back, and I think that's the biggest thing.
I think that's
because she's won.
Well,
I don't know.
We seem to have reached this point in Survivor, and there was no talk about this with any other season, regardless of how many times somebody is coming back, but we seem to have reached a point where people are protective of these characters, and I think Sandra has become that breaking point now for fans, where they don't want to see the greatness damaged in any way. And if this season goes poorly, if this goes the way of Karamoan, where it should on paper be, as big of a hit as the first time they did, Fans vs. Favorites. If this is like, it should be as big of a hit as the first time they did All Stars and Heroes vs. Villains. But it goes the wrong way. I mean, I think that we're going to see a lot less returning players because there is always that desire that no matter how many times a player you love plays, you want to see them back. But nobody wants to see somebody like Sandra go down as the first voted out. I mean, this would be worse than Tina Wesson. This would be worse than Richard Hatch. I mean, this would be worse than Colby in a fat suit. It's going to be the most legendary player of all time. And if she doesn't win again, I think if she gets to the end, maybe her reputation is upheld a little bit. But it seems interesting that a lot of people don't want to see these players just because they don't want to see them go down any notches as far as Survivor, legends go.
I feel like she won't win, and she probably won't make it far. But I also feel like a lot of people are saying she'll be the first boot. I feel like she could last a few votes.
Oh, yeah.
But she ain't winning. And the other thing with Sandra is people forget she was fairly invisible early on in Heroes vs. Villains. It was only when the people like Boston Rob and Coach were voted out that we actually saw Sandra confessionals. So it's not like we're going to get oversaturated with Sandra. It's not like she's going to be a big character like Jeff Varner. So it's going to be interesting, but you mentioned the legends like going down. If Tony's the first boot or even doesn't make the merge, I'm really going to shoot a crow or something. But Rossi, anything quickly to add on Sari at all?
Kind of like Sandra. She's, a little different. I think Sari's third time, she did have more to her. Obviously, like, she went so early, but I don't think we need to see her for a fourth time to know she's got potential to do well because we've seen it the first two times. So, mixed. I like her, but not enough to want her back, really.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. And I wonder what her legacy will be if she's a pre-merge again. Like a two-time pre-merger and a two-time merger. Although, based on the fact that Boston Rob is also pretty similar, I don't think it will affect her too much. So we'll probably wrap it up in about 10. But,
just a random number out there.
10 or 12 or 15 or 8.
An hour.
Yeah. But a few more I wanted to touch on, because we pretty much actually talked about most people in one way or another. So there's a few more groupings I want to talk about, so we'll just speed through these people. And the two that I wanted to talk about were Sierra Easton and Jeff Varner, for the obvious reason that they were on season 31 and now they're going to be on season 34 as three-timers. And I feel like with these two, most people agreed they would be three-timers eventually after watching Cambodia. We always said at the end of each autopsy, who will come back for a third time? So it's not really a surprise. A little surprise, but not a huge surprise. My issue with it is it's too soon for both of them. And kind of with Sandra, people are going to curse me. I'm not excited to see Jeff Varner back, even though I voted for him every time, and I'm a huge Jeff Varner fan. And I feel stupid for even complaining about him coming back on a season with all these other people coming back, because Jeff will be one of the better players or better characters, so I shouldn't complain too much. But it just feels too soon. Like, bring him back for 36, 37, although he is getting older, so maybe not. Sierra, to me, Sierra not coming back screams they couldn't get Wentworth. But at the same time, everyone knows. Everyone knows that I'm a Sierra fan, so I'm not complaining too much. It's too soon. But I feel like Sierra is such a safe returning player because, like, she ticks every box. She's going to try and make the hashtag big moves. She's a good-looking young female strategist. She's good at narrating and talking about strategy in confessionals. She's a memorable character for her past. She voted out her mum. She drew rocks. She wanted to make big moves, and she was in the Witch's Coven. So I feel like Sierra is such a safe returnee that we will probably actually see her a fourth time. And I have no problems. Like, these All-Star seasons need that one where even if she's out pre-merge, she's guaranteed to deliver what they brought her back for. similar to Abby Maria in a way. So again, just brief thoughts, Sierra and Jeff Barner.
I'm not going to defend the title of Survivor Game Changers with pretty much any of these people outside of maybe Tony. Sandra, you can make an argument for. I don't necessarily think that either are game changers the way that the show wants us to believe, but I would view Sierra and Jeff Varner as game changers just in that they can always make the game interesting. They can change it enough to make it interesting and show you some things you haven't seen before. Is it the most drastic change you've ever seen? No. Is it the most brilliant or entertaining thing you've ever seen? No. But they play the game very differently from other people, and they take chances that other people don't take. So for that reason, I would have no problem bringing them back every single year. That's why I'm such a huge fan of both of them, is because they make the game interesting, and that's something that we're lacking in modern Survivor, is that everybody's on the same page because everybody's a big fan and everybody knows what moves to make, and it's more about outsmarting production and taking advantage of things that the production hasn't thought of than actually playing the game now. But Varner and Sierra think outside the box, and it's just kind of their natural way of doing it, and that makes the show interesting. So no issues at all with them coming back.
I agree with pretty much everything you said. I just think a little soon, but these two are going to be some of the better ones. What about you, Ross?
I think that's an interesting point that you brought up, Colin, and I really haven't thought about it that way before. But I think it's really going to be tough relying on these two people to change up a season like this, because we know Ozzy's probably going to come back and do similar things. We know Sandra said repeatedly on air that she's not going to do anything. Like, she's like, I've won, I can do it again kind of attitude, and not really change up her strategies. And then there are people like Sierra, Haley, and Troyzen, who are like some people I don't see as changing it up to anything, because, you know,
Troyzen.
They're just like, well, then I'll remove Troyzen and put Troyzen in a different category of people that we don't really know what they're going to do, and it can be iffy. Like Troyzen, Sarah are people that I'm not sure what they're going to do, so I can't really put them in like a certain category.
Yeah,
so it's going to be tough relying on people like Jeff and Sierra to carry all this kind of like strategy and excitement and drama.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely more excited to see Jeff than I am to see Sierra. Not that I dislike Sierra, it's just like, come on, we just saw you.
We just saw Jeff.
Yeah, but Jeff went out early.
Well, we probably saw more of Jeff in those 3-4 episodes than we saw of Sierra the whole season.
We talk about like legends, really,
never gonna
legacies. If Varner is a pre-merger, like if he's first food, this is just he's going to go down as a big character, but just like a completely useless player
in the history of Survivor.
Yeah. Another player we'll quickly touch on, and I'll go to you, Rossi, is Malcolm. And Malcolm, I haven't been a fan of since Philippines. Everyone loved him in Philippines. I was just like, and then Caramel, and I think a lot of people are like, maybe not Malcolm. But out of Ozzy, Joe, and Malcolm, I will say, out of the 3 Golden Boys, Malcolm is the one I'd bring back over anyone. And we all knew he would be a 3-timer. This isn't a shock to anyone. So I'm not thrilled he's on the season, but at the same time, Joe's edit boils down to Joe is perfect. Ozzy's edit boils down to Ozzy is perfect in challenges and in fishing and stuff like that. At least Malcolm is a little more 3-dimensional. But I'm not looking forward to him eating up all the airtime. But I think there are worse choices than bringing back Malcolm.
I agree for sure. I wasn't excited to, like, I feel like as time goes on, I'm going to be more okay with him being there. But right now, it's just kind of like, really, I feel like it was an easy pick, kind of like Sierra. You knew they were going to come back. It was an easy, safe bet. And he works with any theme, really. Like, you could put Challenge Beasts on, and you could put Malcolm there. You could put social players, and you could put Malcolm there. You could put game changers, and you could put Malcolm. You could really put Malcolm in any season. So it's so safe.
Yeah,
I hope he'll be okay.
It's the safe category, like Sierra, I feel. And sorry. Yeah. How do you think he'll do?
I feel like he'll do the same as Karamo, and he'll shake it up a bit. He'll be in good alliances. People will like him, and then it'll be like, oh, Malcolm's a threat, and then they'll vote him out.
Yeah. I agree. I don't think he's a pre-merger. Colin, Malcolm, safe choice?
Well, I think he's an obvious choice for a reason. He is the type of person who's going to deliver one way or the other, whether you're a fan of his or not. He's going to provide some entertainment. He's not going to be a dull character. I think his game worsened the second time, but I also believe that has a lot to do with coming back to back.
I also feel like his second one was more fun, though.
Yeah, it was. Like, that's how I said. He's going to make it entertaining one way or the other. I actually have some hope that he's one of those players who would really understand the game better a second time, because let's not forget, he played a really good game the first time in Philippines. There was no way he was going to win, but the fact that he sided with Denise of all people and made it that far to the end shows he's not just your one-dimensional player. He does have some interesting ideas that other players nobody else would have ever thought of, being the young athletic, Superman that teams up with the middle-aged lady who's a sex therapist. The second time he took a little bit more of a predictable route, and I think that's why his game was hurt. But I don't think that we're going to get the same thing a third time from Malcolm. I think we're going to get something completely different.
All right. So just quickly then, before we wrap up, I want to know, because we talked on who we're furious about, but who we're excited to see. And we didn't talk about everyone. We didn't touch on Brad Culpepper.
Because nobody's excited.
Yeah, I'm not excited, but also I think he will deliver. For good or worse, he will deliver.
I mean, it makes sense to bring him back. Like, I don't like him back at all. Because he was on that 32 grouping in Cambodia. Like, he was on the short list. He didn't make the cast. Same with Troy Zan and stuff. So I see it.
Yeah, I'm not as shocked, but I'm not thrilled. But I'm also, there could be worse people. So a few just that I'm excited to talk about that we haven't really brought up. Excited to see, Debbie. I thought she was a brilliant character. I was a huge Debbie fan. Excited. I hope she's not a pre-merge, because she will definitely deliver. I hope she's like the Final 3 GOAT or something, so we get a lot of Debbie. The other one is Tony, of course, but I just worry he stands out so much in this cast, and I worry that people are going to go after him. Sarah, we can debate back and forth between Rossi and Colin whether or not she's done, but I think she's notable. She's from Cagayan. She had a memorable exit. She's a fun character. And I feel like she could do well. I feel like Sierra could be a winner of this season. Sarah, sorry. Not Sierra. So Sarah, I'm looking forward to. And the other one, people curse me out all you want. I'm excited to see Troy Zan back. I voted for him in Second Chance. I feel like he did enough in his first to warrant a return. I feel like he mixes fun character with also a player. I feel like he will be one of the biggest strategists in this season. And I wonder if he will actually learn anything from Kim. So yeah, he's a bit arrogant in that, but I like Troy Zan, and I'm excited to see him back. And really, they're pretty much the only ones, and a few that we already talked about, but they're pretty much the only ones. But what about you, Colin? Who are you excited for?
Really, it's just Tony and Sarah. I would say I'm excited for Debbie and Aubrey, but I already said it earlier about Aubrey, and I'll say the same thing about Debbie. There's not enough time for them to fix their mistakes from the first time. So it is just going to be rehash, I feel, of what they did the first time around. Debbie maybe a little less, just because Debbie is so unpredictable. She'll be a big character. I'm not thrilled about having 3 or 4 time players, but I already said JT is going to be an exciting person to watch, just because I think he will be different, and Sierra and Jeff, same thing. But really, when it comes down to it, the only 2 people here who I wouldn't have an issue if they got voted out early, just because I'm glad to see them back, is Tony and Sarah. Even with Troy Zan, I'm with you. I voted for Troy Zan too. I would have loved to have seen Troy Zan back in Second Chances. I don't know if I'm crazy about him being back on this season.
I feel like he fit better on that cast than this cast. Who are you excited for to see back, Rossi, besides almost Jen?
Yeah, I'm not excited. I'm not crazy. She's not the best and the favorite, but I think I'm going to give her a chance. So I'm okay with seeing her. Other than that, I'm excited to see Andrea. We did talk about her, but I'm okay with seeing. I like her. And Jeff Varner probably. And then there are people that I like, but I don't really want to see them back. I like Caleb, but I don't need to see him back. I like Sarib, but I don't need to see her back. So there's a lot of people that I like necessarily as for what they've done, but not for what they're gonna do.
All right, just to wrap it up then, final talking point is that, because we didn't really touch on it, we've mocked it, but we didn't touch on it, but the theme/title of the season, which is just ridiculous, and it's clear that most of these people aren't game changers, they just came up with it later. And also, just a final touch on this season, because I will say, even though this cast is pretty atrocious, and these people just don't gel well together like Second Chance did, I will say that I think just because the cast is not great, it doesn't mean it will be a bad season. This could go on to be one of the best seasons, and it still has a lot of potential. So I'm not one of those people who, with Millennials, Gen X, and this one, where I just go, oh, this is the worst thing ever, it's going to be the worst season. It does concern me, these two coming back to back, and this 34, it concerns me for sure, but I am optimistic about it. So, Colin, the actual theme that we didn't really touch on a whole lot, and also your final thoughts on the season.
Well, I mean, really the only person here who was really a game changer was Tony. Tony and Sandra, because they won. I mean, and I'm not just saying that you have to win to be a game changer, but nobody else here did anything so drastic from what anybody else has done before. I mean, I think Sari comes
maybe Brad and Sierra a little bit because of the blood versus water thing.
Well, but I mean that was the season as a game changer. I don't think they did anything different in their
Well,
game.
it depends on their definition of game changer.
Yeah,
really.
I think it's pretty open at this point. I mean, if Andrea is a game changer and Caleb is a game changer, then
Caleb, he changed the game. So.
Yeah.
Change the medevacs team.
That's right. He made it so that our medevacs get acknowledged in the closing credits.
Cool
as possible
to be
returnees.
medevaced.
That's right. It is now cool to be medevaced. No, I mean overall, I'm bothered by the cast. I'm not as excited as I should be about an all-star season, but it's not something where I'm that worried that this is going to ruin Survivor, because you never know how the game's going to come out. Fans versus favorites, I'm not really a fan of either of those seasons, and a lot of people love Micronesia, but I remember being really excited for Caramon at one point and completely disappointed. I remember the next season right after that being really judgmental of Blood versus Water and absolutely loving that season. And it was the same way even just with the cast. I thought the cast for Blood versus Water was terrible. This cast is pretty much on level with that, and maybe the season's going to come out to be something great. It really is just going to come down to whether we see anything different from these people. I don't think they were thinking that hard going into the season. I think they just did pick the only people left who agreed to do the show and fit their types. But there's still hope that the season could turn out. Of the two, sadly, I'm actually more excited for Gen X versus Millennials. And it seems strange to be more excited for all new players than a big season of returnees.
Just quickly before we go, rattle out 5 or 6 names of who you were disappointed who didn't make the list, didn't make the cast, who weren't on the short list. So other players, who weren't. Carolyn and John and Natalie and Earl, of course, we want to see back, but who?
So not counting those.
Yeah, not counting, because we know want to see them.
Well, the first time we mentioned this on Survivor Oz was the recap. I can't remember which episode it was with T-Bird, and she brought it up in our recap because it had just leaked that day, and she brought up that her name wasn't on there. That's my number one. I don't know how they could see so much potential in bringing T-Bird back and not even include her on the potentials for this. Same thing with Stephanie Valencia. I think when you go back to that Second Chance season, there was a lot of people that there was support for, maybe not enough votes, but now people look back and like, how did we not put T-Bird on there? How did we not put Valencia on there? Those two for sure. Chris Dougherty, I don't care how fat he is now, bring him back. And I'm not saying that as a critical thing. I'm saying that that's the excuse people give. They're like, well, he's put on too much weight. Who cares? You could bring him back. He would be an amazing player. If he was first voted out, I would love it. It would be the greatest episode I had ever seen in Survivor. And along with that, I think that you could still go back to some of those earlier seasons, and you could still get a lot of people out of it. I mean, let's go back to Africa. And Ross, you mentioned Silas Gaither. That would be an incredible player to play, especially after hearing the interview that he did with Ben on this show and seeing that this is a guy who completely turned around and realizes what mistakes he made. So any of those types of players I would love to see back. Bring anybody back from Vanuatu, anybody from Africa, anybody from Gabon.
Where's Kenny and Crystal? Come on.
Yeah.
Rossi, all those final thoughts, the twist, who you'd want to see back, and final thoughts on game changers to wrap up this episode. It'll be a while since we talk about this season again, I'm sure.
As we've been going through this episode, I've been kind of thinking about the title of it, because that's been a big deal. It's like game changers, that's not them. And one thing that came up was the word legends came up, and I'm thinking, well, how could they cast it that way? And I was thinking like legends versus like redeemers, people who need to redeem themselves. And then the only issue that came up with that is, besides repeating the verses 2 seasons in a row, would be that the redeemers would be like a cast full of the Ko-Rongs and like some miscellaneous people.
Yeah. Plus,
so there are
most
some
people
issues.
here aren't legends.
But I mean, you could cast people like Sandra, Tony, Suri in those like categories. Like you could put enough people in that category to
Well, maybe
pass
they
it.
will do the tribes like that. That's how the tribes might be mixed up. Like, even
But
if
the
that's
only
not
issue, only issue with that is that people like Aubrey, Ty, Caleb, Debbie are not legends, so they'd be kind of stuck together, and they wouldn't want that anyway. People that I'd want back, T-Bird. Yes, I thought of that when you asked the question. People like Caramone came up. People like Laura Alexander, with someone I've wanted to see back for the longest time. Bring back Mookie.
Mookie. I'm not questioning it.
while we're at it.
That's not a name I ever expected to be thrown out there. Not questioning it, but it's really out of left field.
Bring back Boo.
Oh, I love Boo.
Cassandra.
Clearly, you just watched Fiji.
I would bring back Cassandra, hands down. Anyway.
Yeah, well, you also wanted to see Haley back. So.
I never said wanted to see. I said I'm giving her a chance. I'm okay with her being there.
All right. I'm beginning to feel like, and we could have touched on potential themes, like maybe that will be a future episode, like can we top Survivor Game Changers as a theme? But I feel like, and it would be so redundant at this point, but I almost feel like it should have just been Brains versus Brawn versus Beauty All-Stars and drop Sierra off the cast and drop like one of the other people.
Is that a shot
I
saying Sierra doesn't fit in with Brains, Brawn, or Beauty?
It's a shot saying I don't want Sierra back, and I'd rather them drop 2 people than actually have her on the cast. So yeah, drop her and drop one of the males and just do Brains vs Brawn vs Beauty All Stars. Not that I want that, but it would be better than Game Changers. Anyway, that's it. That's our discussion on Survivor Game Changers, the Mamanuka Island, and Survivor Millennials versus Gen X. Wow, this is just... We're looking forward to the future of Survivor here. So that's it. I hope you enjoyed our discussion. It was just brief discussion of this. Like, we could honestly do a 4-hour discussion on just this cast as a reaction without it as a cast assessment. And maybe we will do another episode if we get bored on it, like figure out a way to do another episode, like casting a better twist or something like that. I feel like we will talk about it before the season comes out.
Better uses for Aussie than season 34.
Yeah. Yeah. Recasting season 34 with a completely different cast. But I feel like season 33 is only 2 months away, so not a long wait for that. I'm excited for it. More excited for Australian Survivor. But yeah, anyway, stay tuned for more of these Ozlet shows as well. We're going to be doing a lot of Australian Survivor ones, but hoping to do some more American ones. It's been a while since we talked about the US version. So yeah, very exciting. Let us know what your thoughts on this cast as well, because I feel like it would be much the same. Tell us if we were too critical or not, and not positive enough about this episode. We probably were. But Colin, thanks for joining us. We've been talking about this episode. It's been a long time waiting for it to actually happen, but it's happened, and I feel like all our rants are out, but I'm still going to be ranting about this season even after the episode.
Yeah, and I think we spared people from the angriest rants about a month or 2 ago. So
yeah,
this
has been much louder.
Yeah, this is us once we've had time to mourn over the loss of those who didn't make it on. But it's still fun to talk about this, and I think it's going to be even more fun to actually talk about the season when it starts, and we can criticize these people for what we've actually seen on the season and not just speculate how bad they're going to suck.
Yeah, I hope it goes on to be like the best season, but it remains to be seen. And Rossi as well. It's been a while since you've been on one of these episodes, so thanks for joining.
Yeah, good to be here. Not too bad. We didn't argue that much.
Much. Until you brought up like wanting to see Sierra win or something like that, something dumb.
I did not think that.
Anyway, that's it. Subscribe if you haven't, and write a comment on the Facebook or the website because I'm interested in here. You can download our Australian Survivor Ozlet shows, and if you've got an idea for a topic to cover, let us know because we may do it because there's still a few more weeks of the off season to do some of these episodes. So let us know if you're enjoying them. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So until next time, we'll speak to you on the train. #exploding babies.